if I'm coughing too much or get too hoarse, Jay Reiger is going to step in. Uh, back to, and we have our executive in place, Dan O'Hara, who could run this whole thing without any of us to help. Anyway, I'd like to introduce this with a prayer, Pledge of Allegiance, and a reading of the Civility Pledge. Given logistics, Dan, could you do that for us?
Of course, good evening. I'll start with the Serenity Pledge. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If you'll follow me for the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will recite the Civility Pledge. I pledge to build a stronger, more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints, and finding solutions for the betterment of my town. JD?
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is David Osgathorpe, John David Osgathorpe, and I am the chair. Jay, the vice chair, would you please introduce yourself?
Jay Reigart, Vice Chair.
Jeff, would you please introduce yourself?
Jeff Hardy.
James, would you please introduce yourself?
James Gardner.
And Kelly, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Kelly Kuzina.
Okay, those are your 5 commissioners. We have a complete roll here, and hopefully we're not straining the town of Awandaw's bandwidth too much with that. I'd like to introduce the minutes, which were circulated to everyone and posted, and open it up to discussion of the commissioners. Anything from corrections, deletions, substitutions, or motions to accept will be in order.
I have a few proposed changes. Let's see, second page under E, new business. The paragraph, the very last paragraph on the page that begins, he also explained. In that first line, he says he also explained that under the, when reviewing ordinances, I think we either need to strike under the or put in what we're talking about, which I assume is the statute. May just be easier to strike under the. And then I had a few proposed changes to the motion or clarifications to the motion regarding the recommended amendments to the PD document for TMS 66100000029. Those are listed numbers 1 through 9.
Yep.
For number 5, I would suggest that we revise it to change the color range to 3000 Kelvin or less. Number 8, I think we need to replace the first part of that, minimum lot coverage for residential 30,000 square feet, to instead say add a 30,000 square foot minimum lot area for residential lots. And then on number 9, I would suggest we replace the beginning, except section 2 as recommended by the Planning Commission. Replace that with revised section 2 as proposed by staff and strike language, blah, 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 the rest of what's in the text there. And that's all my proposed changes.
Okay. Does anyone else in the commission have comments regarding what Kelly has brought up? All right.
Can
Kelly,
I quickly go over those changes?
Would you pose those as recommendations so we can vote on them one after another?
Certainly. Takia, did you have a question before I do that?
I guess essentially it's going to be what you're about to do. I was going to ask if you could go back through each so that I could make sure I have them all, or I was about to go back through them all.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the following corrections. Under item E, new business, item A, text amendment, the second paragraph that begins, he also explained, to just strike under the from that first sentence. Then on I guess this is the third page of the minutes, under the motion regarding amendments to the PD document for the TMS ending in 029, to revise or recommendation number 5 to just say change the color range to 3000 Kelvin or less. Number 8, revised to read, add a 30,000 square foot minimum lot area for residential lots, stipulating that the commercial is on Highway 17 and residential is on Dora Road. And then number 9, revise it to say, revise section 2 as proposed by staff and strike language, quote, or in conjunction with the storage, and replace language with residential.
I second. Do we have any other comments? Jeff, Jay,
No, sounds good to me.
James? All in favor of accepting the recommendations of the changes made by Commissioner Casino, specify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, Kelly, thank you very much. And I do recommend remember the discussion about Kelvin and the 3000, because I know something about lighting too. And you made that quite clear at the meeting. I'm sorry for missing it. All right. This is now starting public comments. Dan, would you introduce this subject and start off the timing?
Sorry, I'm trying to navigate a few things here, but let me get I placed a comment in the chat. If you wish to make public comment, please type your name and address in the comments or in the chat box. Please keep your microphone muted until you're called on to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Once your time is up, please mute your microphone. If you wish to continue any comments after all speakers have gone, please make the following request in the chat, quote, "I'd like to continue my comments," and I will acknowledge you to the chairperson. With that, we'll allow anyone to speak if you'd like to put your name in the chat, please do so.
Does not appear like you have many takers as of yet. Are you getting any symbol that someone's typing?
I don't see any typing in the chat. No, sir.
No, I don't either. Well, let's give it another minute or two.
Sorry to interrupt. I was trying to type and it won't accept my typing. It's Andrea Frazier, 7854 Gull Bay Drive.
Well, if it won't accept your typing, we'll accept your voice input. So what you got, Andrea?
I just, according to the agenda, the draft of the ordinance for vested rights was to be attached, and I did not see it attached. That's all. I just want to know.
Takia, do you know what was posted? I've obviously got the attachment, as did all commissioners.
Yeah, that
believe-
wasn't posted for the public.
What was posted was the first draft that you guys got on Thursday from Catherine, and then the full document followed on Friday. And I think she just probably maybe forgot to post the full document.
Okay, because I just printed it off tonight and I only got the 6 pages for that. But could you see that gets posted and then I can just print it off?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else having trouble typing and would like to talk? Okay, that ends the public comment period. Let's go on to old business, and you will be hearing more than you want to about vested rights, which is now posted on the screen. At least it's on my screen. I hope everybody can see the proposed ordinance because we're going to go through it fairly closely. Everybody on the commission see this?
Yes.
Okay. That means it's probably sitting there. All right. This
I
is
ca-
basically what we've talked about.
Dave, I can't see it. I wonder where it would be on my screen.
It's right in the middle of mine.
All I
In
see is
the
your picture.
at
or
the very
whoever's
top,
talking.
this is Kelly. At the very
Yeah, hey,
top of the
Kelly.
screen, like on the
Mhm.
menu bar, you should be able to toggle between, it says meeting and planning manager screen.
Oh, sure enough. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Got it? Okay, great.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Okay, here we are. All right, so this is open for discussion. This is what staff, which is basically Dan and our attorney, have spent 2 months massaging from our comments. And Dan and I spent 2 hours this afternoon doing the same thing so that I can understand exactly what we've got here. There should be no surprises, but we're going to propose changing some verbiage which the state got us into. I don't quite think that they understood the difference between phase development, plan development, and site-specific development. But I think we've got that ironed out. Okay, so we're sitting here on page 1. I hope everybody's there, and it's sitting on my screen, so it should be on yours too. If you would go down on that first page to the third whereas, and this is referring to State Code 6-29-1530. That is the development code for the state of South Carolina and the state code of laws. The code for plan development is under state law 6-31-40. I read both of these to the commission in January, and you all got copies. And we've been working with them since that time. What Dan and I are proposing is to define site-specific, phased, and planned up front, and then just change everything after that to development. As long as we don't have to keep going through those 3 things every time we talk about some element of the vesting document. So when it says future, for instance, on the 4th whereas is future planned or phased development, it should be just development, because that is basically what we're after. The state allows you to do 3 things, 2 of them under 6-29-1530. That's the second whereas, which is a 2-year vesting period and up to 5 additional years of extension for a site-specific development plan, which usually means a lot. And up to 5 years for a phase development plan. A phase development is a subsection of plan development where the development is done in stages. Think Cane Bay, where they're trying to put up thousands of houses. They can't do them all at one time. So they're doing it in stages, phase development. If you're all familiar with the Wapata, more commonly called White Door Track, It is phased. They've got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And then there's planned development. And the state under that 6-31-40 allows you a certain period of time based on the amount of acreage involved. And the minimum acreage you can have to qualify for that is 25 acres, which puts a fair amount of the property around here out of the consideration for that. But then again, it goes up to over 1,000, and you can have up to 20 years. And that is a planned development where everything is done at the same time. We actually, oh geez, if you look at Palmetto Bluff, they're putting in all 44 houses in the same swoop in the same 1-year period of time. If that is technically a residential development, but if it was a planned development, it would be called planned and not phased. Okay, I hope that makes it somewhat clearer. It took a while to figure out exactly what they were talking about because even the state changes their language as they go through it, which is an unfriendly thing to do for people like me. All right, the next page, section 153-053, section is purpose. The regulations seek to require planned and phased developments to be assessed in more frequent intervals. We're basically announcing that, yeah, we're not going to be granting these long vesting periods that last over a decade and through many planning commissions and many changes in town council, and actually in what the populace thinks about these things. The next page is
Dave, what is how do you define reassessed? What does that entail?
Well, we're basically getting to that in the next one. We're basically giving them 2 years plus an extra 2 years extension. It's going to be reassessed at 2 years.
Yeah, but when
will
we
be reassessed at
reassess,
2 years.
that means it comes up for approval again. It means
It goes
you
to the
know-
planning manager. They have to, before their initial 2-year vest expires, they have to indicate that they would like an extension of a year and submit their intention to do that. And what they've done so far, the planning manager, and if they're adhering to everything they agreed they were going to adhere to, the planning manager can unilaterally give them another year, or he can bring it to the planning commission if he believes they don't deserve it. And that can happen 2 years, sequential years, so up to 4 years.
and
And
is
then-
it spelled out what criteria he uses to decide whether they're complying with their original plan development?
No, the vesting never did that. That comes under the actual description of the zone and agreement. You can't put out. No vesting document I've seen has anything about the criteria.
Point of order, Chair. We should probably have a motion to discuss further on the ordinance.
Oh, we're continuing to discuss further, but yes, I'll entertain a motion to discuss further what we're doing.
So moved. James Gardner, so moved.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All,
Aye.
all opposed?
Aye.
Wow, okay. Now, then it gets into the definitions. And again, we are now putting together planned, phased, and site-specific development. And Dan will make those changes. I'm just telling you they're coming. And then all the way through the document, every time you see site-specific or planned or phased, it's just development, which makes this document a little simpler to read.
Excuse me, do we want to discuss as we're going through this, or would you prefer to give an overview first and then talk about it?
It's very easy to answer that because I'm through.
Oh, okay.
Makes it easy. Yes. That was the gist of what we went through. We everybody is getting tired of using that language 3 times in every sentence in this document. And that's about it. So what did you have?
Well, I have a few suggestions in the definition, and I know these definitions are straight from the statute.
Yep.
I do think the definition of conditionally approved or conditional approval could be clearer. It says, let's see if you,
I didn't
Dan,
mean
tell
are
us
you
where you
controlling
are?
that?
call you and I
Yeah, could
can't
you
figure
scroll
out
up
how
a
to
little
send you
bit?
a message.
Yeah. So an interim action taken by a local governing body that provides authorization for a site-specific development plan or phase development plan, but is subject to approval. And I have an issue with that last thing that says, but is subject to approval. I just feel like that could be clearer because it's been approved. It's been conditionally approved, but it's not clear what what additional approval that might be subject to.
Dan, could you help us out here?
That is language from the state statute, but I will add that Kelly brings up a valid point. I think it may refer to like any conditional plat approval, but of course, there's several different conditional approvals that our bodies can offer or issue. So I do agree that we could clarify in there, kind of elaborate a little bit on what it
Yeah,
can,
because
yeah.
sorry, it doesn't necessarily. I could be wrong, but I don't think it necessarily means that it has to go back through an approval process. Like if they're meeting the conditions, I think maybe the planning manager can sign off on it and he's not exactly approving it because it's been approved. He's just verifying that they've met the conditions. Um, so anyway, and again, I know all of these are from the statute and they could be better written, but yeah, if we just I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of an applicant and somebody just reading this, trying to understand what they have to do and what this all means. And it's just not very clear to me. The next thing is
Well,
the
hold on
definition.
right there.
Oh,
What would
sure.
you like us to do with this? Yeah, I've read an awful lot of state statutes in the past 6 months, and clarity is not an essential point. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Um, Dan, if you can come up with some language, again, I'm not as familiar with the town's approval processes as I should be quite yet, but just to clarify that it's, but is subject to, additional review by the town or additional verification by the town that the conditions are met or something along those
Right.
lines.
Yeah, yes, that can definitely be added, and I'll look in our subdivision regulations to see if there's some kind of reference to that already.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just throw in my 2 cents worth on that. How do we know when it is no longer subject to approval? If we could have an endpoint there.
Yeah.
It'd likely be when the conditions are met,
Yeah.
When maybe we need to just say that.
when all conditions are met as determined by the local governing body.
Well, that's my next definition of concern is local governing body. So let's talk about that because the definition is limited to the town council. Well, okay, I have a couple of issues. One, it's limited to town council, but town council is not the only entity approving site-specific development plans. So planning commission approves preliminary plats, right? That's a site-specific development plan. So planning commission needs to be part of that. And then if staff approved site-specific development plans, maybe for conditional uses or something like that, that should also include staff or maybe just more broadly the town of Allendale.
Okay.
No, sorry, go ahead.
So would you propose inclusion of C because it's a town council B, a county or municipal body authorized by statute or by the town, and then C, an agent or appointed official by the town.
I would probably be more specific to, well, now that I'm thinking about it, it would be planning commission, it would be board of zoning appeals for variances or special exceptions. I think either we need to list every body or individual that has the authority to approve a site-specific development plan.
Okay.
Whatever that list is.
Well, that would be the planning commission, the town council. Can the BZA actually approve a plan?
Yes, a variance would have vested rights,
Okay, then
same
you've
as a
got three
special
in there.
exception or a special use.
Is that what you're after, Kelly?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, but I also have a concern with the second part of that. And again, I know these are all from the statute, but does a county or municipal body other than the town have authority to approve a site-specific development plan in the town of Allendale? I couldn't think of any, but I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm correct.
That was something Mac and I tossed around, and Chloe, if he briefed you on some of that stuff, could you?
Cut out for a second. I don't know if you stopped, but I think that that's just in there at this point as a catch-all if there were something that could fall into that category at any point, because it still would have to be authorized by statute or by the town. So it's
Okay.
almost if there were ever to be some type of municipal body created by the town, that would ultimately have this power. But he didn't, he might have discussed it a little bit farther in detail with you, Dan. But I think it's probably best to keep it in there just to make sure that we're not running afoul also of what is in the statute due to the fact that
Sure.
it's designating county language. I don't think we would have an issue because I don't think this would, run opposite to the three bodies that we know are already permitted to make these decisions, but I think it's there as a kind of safety net for the town.
What about the
Sure.
county's Greenbelt program? They own a significant piece of land now that is near Camp Seawee, and they did own our park until they gave it to us. But they own and control that Greenbelt, which they're eventually going to develop within our town. It's county property, but they're going to develop it for the benefit of our citizens. Would that qualify? I'm just guessing because I didn't write this.
Right. So in that case, no, because that review would still have to go before town council, planning commission, myself, or board of zoning appeals, depending on what they need. So I think with the county one, we talked about it briefly, just because we don't oversee our own road maintenance and road work, that the activities that are reviewed by the county, we didn't want to, I guess, preclude if they're within our jurisdictional limits. So that's something that we can look into a little bit more, Kelly. But I think that was retained, kind of as Chloe mentioned, just to stay in line with the state statute, but also,
Sure.
Some understanding that the county can't go and approve a zoning permit, but they can approve a building permit. So, it does talk about building services, which currently are conducted by the county for the town.
Okay.
So-
And that's good. I don't,
Yeah.
you don't have to look into it any further. You can just, I'm fine leaving it in.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
Well, I'm curious about your conversation about phase development plans and site-specific development plans, because the statute doesn't require the the vested rights ordinance to address phased development plans. And the definition even says that it doesn't satisfy the requirements for a site-specific development plan. So it has a different sort of vesting period. But am I correct? Am I understanding you correct in saying that you're kind of consolidating these terms? And if so, can y'all explain how you're doing that?
Phased development is a subsection of plan development. So when you say plan development, you're including phased development. And
Well, do you mean plan development just sort of generically, or plan development like plan development zoning district?
I'm not sure.
So,
What you're trying to
Kennedy,
get at.
the inclusion of phase development here, and I'm glad that you brought that up because yes, we do have the option to include that or to not include that. That is something that I did not want to make while drafting this, so I wanted to be able to present it. I am happy that you brought that up because that is something that should be of consideration. Phase development can happen in different ranges of time, and that's how we may see longer drawn out development plans in the future. Of course, this would not affect anything currently in a place. This would affect any new future development. So what we would see is a little bit more reassessment and further review of these projects and approvals, instead of seeing a phase get approved in 2030 that was approved in 2024. So 2025, I guess. 6 now, but
Well, the SC Code of Laws 629-1530, Section C, talks about approved or conditionally approved phased development plan not to exceed 5 years. But it is a local governing body may. But also, plan development it's section, this law that I refer to, 631 and 40, is also a may. The only must is the 2-year vesting right in the state code. I'm sitting here holding these couple paragraph things in my hand. The only must is the 2-year vesting right. So you're
Sure.
right. It is optional.
Well, and I'm just trying to understand what submittal is an applicant making where they have a phased development plan, right? So if you have a plan development zoning district, that's sort of a different animal because it's zoning, right? So, and then you also have preliminary plats, which are by definition a site-specific development plan. So what is somebody, when would an applicant or developer submit a phased development plan?
well, I mean, currently we see them with our previously approved planned developments. So a PUD, planned unit development, I assume, that would outline a concept master plan, which I think lists in there that could be considered a site-specific development plan, or that's the previous statute. So, I mean, we see, I guess that's a good point.
Well, look at Cane Bay. It is a planned development, but it's phased. No one builds thousands of homes. So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 and a phase 3. So phased is part of a planned, in that case, part of a planned development, and they call it phases.
Sure, but they have an approved, theoretically, they should, as part of the plan development zoning district rezoning ordinance, there should be a map that goes with that is essentially their phase development plan. That's part of that.
Well, I may have spoken
I'm
out of
just trying to
turn.
understand why we're providing for it. Because I could see, maybe a developer has a large tract that they're going to develop under standard zoning. They're not doing a plan development zoning district. And I could see where they might want to come in and do a phase development plan that has this 5-year vesting and get the whole sort of, entire development approved and then come in with, small preliminary plats for certain phases of that. But I don't know that the town's ordinance currently provides for that. Which maybe I'm thinking this, thinking about this too much, overthinking it.
Yeah, Dan and I did it most of the afternoon. Well, since it's sitting in the state code, the section that I just quoted, we need to address it somewhere.
It is optional. So to Kelly's point,
Well,
you
we can
know,
just say it's not, like Hollywood did and basically say, no phase development.
exactly. Yeah. So if we did that, then phase developments would not have vested rights according to this ordinance.
We're
Right. And I
essentially,
don't know that that's the right answer. I mean, I don't,
Mm.
that's not, it's helpful to a property owner to have a phase development plan because that, especially if they're doing a development that's large enough to phase, it
Mhm.
gives them some, some certainty that they'll be able to complete the development. So maybe it doesn't hurt to have it in here, but if we do keep it in here, I would suggest at some point that we, add something else to the zoning ordinance or the subdivision regulations that says, hey, if you want a submitted phase development plan, here's the process.
And by calling it a phase development plan, that doesn't change the term of vesting, does it?
no.
Okay.
You may get, in the state, that state rule, you can get up to 5 years for a phased development, which doesn't make a lot of sense as much of the state law because you can get 2 for anything and 5 years extension. So you can get 7 years total, which is what we're currently doing. So going the regular route would get you 7 years and going phased development would get you 5. Now, simple addition is, why would I submit a phase development?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Because you have to come back then with a site specific development plan that's vested for 2 years plus the annual extensions.
Mhm.
Yeah, the automatic annual extensions, unfortunately. But yes, you're right.
I've made note, Kelly, of that.
Okay. All right. My last thing with the definitions is the definition of site specific development plan. I do think that it says the plan may be in the form of the following plans or approvals, and then it names these different approvals. Again, I know this is from the statute and maybe it makes more sense to just adopt it as written in the statute. But my suggestion is to use the approvals that the town of Allendale has. Like, I don't think, we don't have conditional or special use district zoning plans, so again, just trying to be clear to applicants and property owners. I think it makes sense to limit it to what type of approvals we actually have.
Just
Yeah,
to
I
interject
had a
on that
problem
one.
with, oh, sorry, go ahead.
The site-specific development plan definition is probably one of the main ones we do not want to change or vary from state law, just
Okay.
because we could get in trouble if we start to limit the theoretical options
Gotcha.
that are provided under state law. So that one we probably just want to leave as is.
Sure,
I
that totally
think
makes
Kelly
sense.
should run for office.
Definitely not.
My thing with that one is I just didn't really understand that first sentence. It doesn't make sense to me. The plan may be in the form of the following plans. That's I would have said the plan may be in the form of the following approvals and just leave out plans or approvals. As an engineer, when I see the plans, I think of a set of plans, but they clearly don't mean it that way. So a planned unit development is a plan, a subdivision plat is a plan. I mean, I don't understand why you need to say the following plans, or I would say in the following approvals, which would be a plan unit, approved plan unit development, an approved subdivision plat, an approved, et cetera. I don't know. But if we're doing it just to go along with somebody who wrote an unclear definition to start with, I guess we got to do that.
And unfortunately, we're stuck with a lot of what the state wrote.
Okay, my 2 cents.
Yeah, better than any of mine. What else, Kelly?
Last sentence in that definition, it's missing a word between the and town. And we need to insert in or by.
You
Got
got
that.
it. Let's see. Jay, we've heard from you. Do you have any other concerns, Jay?
No,
I'm sorry.
Jeff, how about
Yeah.
you?
Okay.
no.
Jim? James?
Sorry, I was trying to pause my no, I don't have any others.
Okay. James, you feeling okay? You sound about as bad as
No.
I do.
I'm not feeling well. I've had my voice lost for the last couple of days. I appreciate you asking, but
Hey, man, I sympathize big
that's
time.
how it goes. The weather.
Mine had a virus helping it, but anyway.
Goodness. Mhm.
So,
Could we
Dan,
back
do
up?
you have a hand?
Could we
Do you have
back
a
up a
handle on
little bit?
everything we've discussed?
The last number 5, the last thing on that page, I don't understand what we're talking about. What are other facilities located to protect natural resource areas? What facilities would those be?
Trying to figure out where you are.
Under the last number 5, you got under C, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think there may be a word missing there. So the conceptual plan, that should be language that comes straight from our code of ordinance. So I think there's probably a word missing there on that one. It's C1, C5. I think it should be and other facilities, comma, located no wait.
Located so as to protect natural. I just don't know
Yeah.
what a natural resource facility protector looks like.
It could be located, comma, to protect natural resource areas, but should be located to protect. I'll take a look at that one.
Yeah.
Good catch.
I have a couple of things in A and B of this section.
Okay.
The first one is just my nitpicky editorial things, but with A1, I think 1 should be on the same line as A, because if you don't have a 2, there shouldn't be a 1.
Okay.
But in that sentence that's A1 now, I think the planning director must use the regulations set forth in the code. And then similarly in B, rather than should, it should be a shall or a must.
Shall. Okay.
May and should mean that's optional, which I don't think we intend for either of these to be optional.
Got it. And C, for now, Kelly, that would cover phase development plans. So as you mentioned, like until we're able to revise the zoning code to address those, I included that procedure there as a catch-all for now, so someone couldn't show up and, want to do a phase development plan, and we already don't have one in place, but it should follow the major subdivision procedures as written out in our current code.
That's great. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yep.
And some of those other, site-specific development plans that we may not directly target currently.
Gotcha. Scroll down a little bit to D. I do think we should add at the end of D, established for 2 years from the date of approval by the town. It kind of goes without saying, but again, just in the interest of clarity.
Date of approval. Okay.
I've got two, sorry to
Nope.
monopolize the conversation, but I've got two sort of, well, one thing for us to talk about in the next section, and then one suggestion. In B there, it says you have to request an extension prior to the expiration of the vesting period. I wanted to see what everyone thought about adding something like prior to the expiration, but not more than like 60 days prior to the expiration. I mean, you don't necessarily want somebody requesting the extension, 6 months ahead of time.
Mhm.
Or for that matter, requesting it in, for the next 3 years, the day that they requested in the first place.
True. Yeah. Yeah, and I shared this with y'all when we talked about this ordinance before, but I have a concern with limiting the applicant to only 2 1-year annual extensions of the vested rights. My read of the statute is that it requires 5 annual extensions. I understand that other communities have done things different, but I'll continue to take exception to that. My only other suggestion in this section is in C1B that requires a copy of the approval letter as part of the extension request. I think we should broaden that to just be documentation of approval, like maybe meeting minutes or something, because I unless I'm mistaken, and is not necessarily always a letter that goes along with an approval.
Now, that one I don't know. Does a letter go out with the approvals? I would assume it does.
It does for
Yeah.
BZAs, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know about like preliminary plats, for example.
It ought to. We don't say say or require that somewhere else. Dan, do you know what the standard procedure is? Do you send out a letter? Do you stamp the plans? How do we signify that we've approved something?
Well, for minor preliminary plats, because at this point in time, I've only reviewed those so far. Of course, major preliminary plats would be approved by this body. So with those, it's more of a on to the next step. We don't stamp preliminary plats. We just, state when I'm discussing a project with an individual, I'll make sure that they have all the requirements necessary for preliminary plat approval and then move them on to their final plat process. So it's more so of a checkbox for minor subdivisions. And then for major subdivisions, of course, that comes from y'all. So, moving forward, if that's a mode of approval that you'd like, where I can write up a template, and that template letter is issued to any planning commission decision, similar to the minutes, we could attach those to the minutes. I'm more than open to that.
Well,
If
if this
I
is
may-
vested, if this is a vested plat, how could it be anything else? Where the preliminary stuff is not relevant. You don't vest a preliminary plat.
Well, yeah. So by definition, a preliminary plat is a site-specific development plan. So in this case, if the planning commission grants approval for a preliminary plat under its review, then that would be vested by state law currently and by this.
Okay.
So I'm more than happy to, like, for our zoning permits, I'll issue an approval letter. But of course, final approval is not granted until that zoning permit has been paid for and issued. But that's just coming from another entity where that's what we did. So that's something I am comfortable with.
I wanted to chime in and say that approval letters have not always been documents that we've been using at the end of a complete application. And without having a document as such, it does make it hard for you when it's time to go back to research and pull it back. It's hard for us to find the information without a document as such. The information can be found, but it's not always easy to put all the pieces together. But if we were to start having a full approval letter at the end of every single, then it would be something that would be beneficial to us, especially with organizing what we have right now and going forward.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea because we need something like Kelly mentioned. That we need something to measure where that 2 years start, and that would be a good marker.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's something that we need to codify, but I just think just broadening the language here to say documentation of approval, whether the staff does eventually do approval letters, that's great. If there's not an approval letter for something, somebody can provide meeting minutes or something that shows something's been approved.
How do you want to handle it, Dan?
I think to Kelly's recommendation, documentation of approval. I think if we get too far into the details, we could miss something and then later have to amend it. I think keeping that a little bit open.
Well, Takia, is that the way it's done now, that we go back and look at the minutes and see, and that's the date it was approved and that's when the clock starts?
Yes, as of right now, we've been using the minutes as a record to measure each plan development, or really all developments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It does get tricky though with conditionally approved preliminary plats. There's a few of those that we've seen that were conditionally approved by the Planning Commission that were later approved. And luckily now we have GoGov to really track exactly when all of that's taking place, but things before GoGov. So we can see when it was conditionally approved, but kind of to our point in the beginning, conditional approval isn't, a final approval necessarily, but.
Can I interject? I like the idea of the final approval letter, to Takia's point, especially to be able to find it down the road. I think that's very helpful from an archiving perspective. My concern is that if we pin this onto the timeline and for some reason that letter gets forgotten to be sent to somebody, in theory, their timeline could extend itself indefinitely if years down the road they said, well, you never actually sent me that letter that you talked about, so I've got 4 years instead of 2 because now 2 years later you finally did send me that letter. I don't want to get stuck in that pickle, but I like the idea of having them, to Takia's point, to be able to find it, but not that we tie that to anything specifically. We can just have I think we should have just a general idea of when things were approved being at a meeting or something to that effect. But the minute that we tie it to something, we forget to make that something, then we're without any timeline control.
All right, commissioners, what other things would you like to bring up related to what is sitting on the table here, which is this draft of a vesting ordinance?
I have a question on the next section, Dan, if you can, with A and B, why is A limited to the Planning Commission and B is limited to Town Council?
Those came straight from statute, so I think it just services the different two powers between the two bodies and differentiating those. But yeah, so this section is straight from statute, so the further intent behind it I can't provide or glean, but I think what this does is it goes in there that shows that Planning Commission can revoke and town council can revoke a site plan too. But I see your point to where it may make more sense because in C, they're both mentioned, so it may make sense to have them both listed.
Well, because A is talking about a conditionally approved
Yeah.
site-specific development plan, and then B is just a site-specific development plan. But I mean, the commission could approve
Both.
one, commission or council can approve either.
Yeah. So
We could put
local
conditions on
governing
a
body.
preliminary plat. Yeah. Yeah, I would combine those and put governing body.
Okay.
Well, if governing body includes staff potentially, like we talked about earlier,
Mhm.
because staff is approving site-specific development plans, you'd have to then clarify who holds a public hearing when it's staff.
See, yeah.
So we'd have to think that through some more, but
And just from a legal standpoint, I would note that like those two specific sections are discussing the revocation power. So there could be some type of difference between what body is allowed to revoke like a fully approved site-specific development plan versus a conditionally approved plan. So that could be something that Dan and Mac and I can discuss just to make sure there's no legal issues we would be running afoul of if we were to combine those together.
yeah, I think that would be great to have y'all's input, because I mean, planning commission, it would seem if planning commission just approved a preliminary plat without any conditions, that it should still be able to revoke that approval, just like it says in B for town council, and vice versa.
Right. And I'm not sure if it might be something where, I mean, it could just be, you know, like some weird ill done drafting by the state. But it could also be something where maybe it's, you know, planning commission has the first recommendation and then town council actually has to like do the revocation for the fully approved development plan. So we can just double check to clarify that there's no issue there. And if it works better for everybody, then we could you guys can, you know, combine them if you wish, if it's totally fine. But I'll make a note and discuss that with Mac and Dan if that's something you guys would like us to do.
Along that line, why does it say terminated in one case and revoked in the other case? What's the designation or the difference?
Right. And that seems like that could be another just along the same line, you know, inartful drafting of the state statute. So we're happy to just double check that and make sure everything's good to go if we were to. And if we wanted to say revoke or terminate, I don't know if there's a legal import to those meanings under statute, so we can review that as well.
Okay.
Well, I would urge that if we get a choice of one thing or the other, well, we stick close to the state. The state needs a heck of a lot of work on this stuff, but I'm not about to tell them, and I certainly can't enforce it, but they can enforce it. So that's the deal. The 800-pound gorilla here is the state.
I wanted to make sure that we included those clauses in there so there would be no question in the event either body needed to act on that we could.
All right, so you'll discuss it with attorney and let us know if we stick with what we've got because it's the state, or if you think there's some way we can get around it and keep ourselves out of trouble. Okay, thanks. What's next, folks?
That's all I had.
Jay.
I haven't seen anything else that puzzles me too much.
I like your fake sunset, Jay.
That's not fake.
Yeah,
That
right.
happened right here 2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago, but I look out my window and I don't see that right now.
Well, come over
It's
here
real, but
some
not
morning.
timely.
And it's not a sunset, it's a sunrise.
Okay.
Very nice.
It would be you to watch a sunrise. Me, I'll watch sunsets. Okay. Jeff,
I have nothing.
James.
Nothing to add.
Okay. All right. Dan, do you have a handle on everything we've discussed, or do you need to run over some things again? I know you'll be revising this along the lines of what we've been talking about, and again, consult our attorney and hopefully present us with what will be a final draft that we can adopt at the next meeting.
Okay, so that's, you'd like me to apply some of these revisions and follow up and then propose the final draft that would be going to town council in
Yeah, we've-
February for approval for final draft.
Yes,
Okay,
we made enough suggestions that I'd like to see the whole thing as a one entity and read through them.
okay. So the only thing that I'll go back to is there's a few things actually. So just so I have everything correct, the only adjustments are revising the language in the conditional approval definition if we can. Making sure that that's clearer and when it meets governing body's approval, not subject until it's not. And then after that, adding clarification on the individual boards and commissions and individuals that can apply and approve of for a vested right. So that's Board of Zoning Appeals, Planning Commission, Planning or Zoning Administrator, Town Council. That one's already in there. Phase development plan. I didn't hear if we were including or excluding this one. So I will table that, leave it in for now. And if anyone feels differently, of course, we can discuss that next time. Let's see. Revised to the approvals that we have. I think we talked about that. There is the inclusion of the review process in there. That's a catch-all for anything that we don't have currently. Chloe mentioned as well that we have to keep the site-specific development plan definition more in line to what is proposed out of any of these mainly. The last one, or one of the last ones, was in the approvals review. That's C1, C5, clarifying the language where it reads other facilities located to protect natural resources. I think I just need to flesh that out and look at my drafts to see if I missed something there. The next section, 153056, or that's the same one, and A shift may to must, and B shift should to shall, and then revise D to read at the end. Is that D? Yeah, D. Established from the date of approval. And then B, that is in this section 153057. Is that right, Kelly? Prior to expiration, but not with X amount of days. I didn't hear any kind of recommendation. If you'd like, I can, throw together some dates and that.
I would
thought I heard
suggest
60.
not more than 60 days prior to
Yeah, that's what
expiration,
she
but
said.
there's no, I mean, I'm open to other suggestions. That was just a number that seemed reasonable.
Okay.
That's a
think-
nice arbitrary date.
I think it should be a window, so we're not waiting till the last minute. I mean, is there any merit in that? Between 30 and 60 days from its expiration, it needs to come in, something to that effect. Will that help us give a little cushion between the date that it's running out, or is there any merit to letting them bring it in right till the last minute?
So it would be no more than 60, no less than 30.
If the commission is pleased with that, I don't know what the merit is of letting it go to the last minute, but it seems reasonable to me. that if you have anything to come back at them with or any questions about it, waiting till the last day isn't ideal.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How about even from 90 to 30? So that gives them 2 months to do it, but not to the last minute.
Kelly, are you fine with the 90 or would you prefer the
Yeah.
60?
No, 90's great.
I think that
Yeah,
sounds
90's
good.
fine with me.
And I also probably just discussed that with Mac just because the only issue that could arise by having a certain time prior to the ending of the rights is you're essentially ending their vested rights period
Less than 2 years.
sooner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In a way, and so that could kind of interfere with the rights of the vested rights. So,
Yeah.
just a note, and I'm happy to again look into that further just to make sure, but that would be something that if you implemented that, you might be opening yourself up to more lawsuits, and that might be something you want to I mean, that is of course something we want to avoid, but that's just something to think about on that issue.
That's a good point.
And since we're in this section, when we, again, going back to the number of annual extensions, when we discussed it before, I think Max said that he was going to look into that and give us an opinion. So Chloe, if you guys could discuss that and let us know your opinion about limiting the number of annual extensions, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, certainly. And
Thank you.
based on what I've discussed with him so far, I think it is again largely based on referencing to other jurisdictions, but I will just make sure that we have a full evaluation of that for you.
Yeah, that'd be great because that language about 5 annual extensions, it does appear in the section of the code that we're operating under now that has to do with jurisdictions that have not adopted a vested rights ordinance. It uses that same language about unless an amendment to the ordinance has been adopted that prohibits approval or something like that. So that's why I don't think that the
Right.
statute allows a different time frame. But again, I'm not an attorney, so I would defer to y'all's expertise.
Well, and I'll make sure we have a good, clear response for you. So
Thank you.
We discussed this at the last meeting, Kelly, as you know, and we voted on it. But yes, it'd be nice if you took a look at a couple of towns besides the ones I sent you. And you can get back to us on that.
will do.
So we'll wait on those two. Let's see. Next would be C1B. Did we settle on documentation of approval? I know that's what we wanted to go with.
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
All right. So I think I have everything.
Okay. We'll be looking forward to is next meeting okay?
Yes.
All right.
And one more quick question that I've forgotten to ask is section 057 C2A. Why is there a different fee for the first year and the second year?
Oh, that is a good question. So I propose that as I had a really good explanation for it when I first did it. I'm trying to recall it right now because it makes a lot of sense.
Take
So
your time.
if in theory, if you were to apply and at the first time you're stating, okay, so I have a plan development or a site specific development plan of, let's just say 50 lots. At the time of approval, I would have to pay the planning fees associated with that 50 lot approval. At the time of my, so then 2 years pass. So then you're down, half of your time, which is 4 years. And then at your next one, you would be applying for a lower rate off of that original approval. So instead of having to pay the entire fee throughout, all 3 times, I guess, is how much you'd pay it. You only pay, I think it's because I can't remember.
200 at a first year
Yeah,
extension,
100.
100 second year extension.
Oh, okay. So Mac must have changed that. But I had percentages in there. So the first annual extension would have been, I think, 25 or 50% of the original approval. And then the second annual extension would have been so 50 and then 25. So
Because
decreasing
each
by
year
one.
they're lessening their vesting.
Correct.
And,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think
it's-
Mac changed that in there.
It's probably easier to figure. And,
Yeah.
and I understand. Okay, thank you.
Well,
Yep.
there's probably less administrative processing required for the second one, because theoretically, the first year you've done all the, verification and everything, and you're maintaining those records, so it should be less time involved the second time around.
Exactly.
So is the upshot is we've got the answer and everybody's okay with it? All right.
And the takeaway from this, I assume, is that we will see this again in a month, and at that
Yes.
point, approve it or disapprove it and send it on to council.
You got it.
Okay.
Dan, would you like to go through our meeting schedule?
Yes, I would.
Please do.
So the regular schedule meeting, I'm going to go ahead and just go back up to the agenda. The regular scheduled meeting for January was scheduled for January 19th, which is Martin Luther King Day. That is a town recognized holiday, so we will not be there that date. So instead, that meeting will be changed to January 20th. And also as an effort to get some additional discussions in January, Dave had reached out to me about proposing an additional meeting date in January. We could do either January 12th at our regular time, which is a Monday, and then also January 29th, which is also a Monday at our regular time for a special meeting.
And sorry to interrupt, but one point of order, I would say, is for what we directed the planning manager to do for the next month. Can we also have that as a formal motion in a second to direct staff to do that so that we can have that on the record too, as per the discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in
There we
favor?
go.
Aye.
All against? And now, Dan, you've got two meeting dates out there. Would you have Takia send those proposals to the committee and
Yes.
get back with what people can actually make, because we're going to need a quorum.
Yep.
And again, the meetings will be entirely on plan development and whatever else comes up.
Additionally, this is a discussion that myself, Catherine, and Mac, the town attorney, have been having. Mac has, and Chloe, we enjoy you being here too.
It's totally fine.
Yeah, don't take this to heart. But Mac has school board meetings, I think, on the third Monday of the month, which is today, today. So he has spoken to me and Catherine about seeing about rearranging our regular schedule to the second and fourth for Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission. So instead of on the third Monday, we would meet on the fourth Monday if approved by Town Council. It's my understanding that that would have to go through an ordinance revision. Is that correct, Catherine?
Yes, that is correct. It would have to be amended in our code of ordinances, so it'd still be the 6 o'clock time, but instead of being the third Monday, it would be the fourth Monday. All subject to the council's approval.
And if that change is made, we'll make sure that everyone is aware of that in advance.
All right. And Takia, can you get that survey out over the next coming days?
Will do, as soon as I get the date,
Provided it
I'll get
isn't
out.
too frozen in town hall. Gee, I'm glad we're not in our meeting room tonight. Must be bad in there.
Agreed.
Okay.
And one
go
thing
ahead.
to clarify, just because my audio was cutting in and out, those dates for the January meeting that Takia is sending out for the special called meeting, what dates were those again?
The 12th and the 29th of January
Okay.
at the
Thank you.
regular scheduled time. So 6 p.m. on both of those dates,
Thank you.
of course.
Question. So does that give us 3 meetings in January? Because we had said the 20th already, hadn't we?
No, it'll only give us two.
Sorry. The 12th and the 29th. So we're not doing the 20th?
We're
No,
doing
the-
Said
either,
we were?
either the 12th or the 29th.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
choose
We're
one or the
doing the
other. not
20th.
both.
understand. I'm sorry. 20th
Yeah.
is set. 12th or 29th are the two options for the second.
Yeah,
Correct.
Understood. I'm sorry I missed that one.
All right, those meetings will be, unless something pressing comes up before Dan, and then we will act like the planning commission and take up whatever plats or things he presents us with. Will be primarily on plan developments. Plan developments, is something that, turns out to be a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. We have a state statute, and Kelly will have a field day with that state statute, but it is what it is. But most of our planned developments in Allendale at present are not, in truth, meeting the state definition of a planned development. They are basically residential developments masquerading as planned developments. I don't really know the reason why they're called planned developments, because if our planned development has to be at a minimum two different kinds of units in there. One can be like residential and business, or government and residential, or whatever, but two things, not just all residential. And particularly residential is single family housing. The County of York allows you to just have a residential planned development, but then you have to have different kinds of residences, such as single family houses, plus apartment buildings, plus duplexes, or whatever, a mix of them. And what our planned developments have is a single family developments on small pieces of property. That was actually ruled illegal by the state Supreme Court in 2010. Despite having excellent representation by the developer, the Sinkler folks, was the lawyers, and they're good. It was involving a development on Wadmalaw, where they had used a planned development designation primarily to get out of all the restrictions of residential developments, and that's not what it's for. We have a lot of planned developments that are nothing more than residential developments, and in the future will be residential developments. Now, the state starts off their statute saying this should be used very sparsely, and that is our intention. And we'll hew closely to the state ordinance, and I suspect we will, and then not deviate on our own personal interpretation of that, which seems to have been the case in the past. So we will be going through plan developments. We will stay fairly close to the state, I believe, state intentions. And you will not see many plan developments around here, because that isn't the purpose of it. We're primarily a residential community. Anyway, you may have noticed that some things have slowed down around here. It's because of our excellent now planning office is enforcing some things that hadn't quite been enforced in the past. I've heard a lot of comment about clear cutting. It would seem on at least one of them that our predecessors allowed clear cutting of pines, even those that meet the criteria for preservation, by granting them a variance. That ain't going to happen again either. So we've got a phased development currently in abeyance right now, as they start doing a real tree survey and tell us what they do intend to cut down. Anyway, next two meetings, plan developments, basically the state, and we will go on from there. Those are my closing remarks, folks. Anything else anybody wants to bring up?
Yeah.
I noticed that in the today's meeting agenda, it says next meeting is the 20th. Is there any problem if we were to change it to the 12th prior to the 20th listed in there because we're putting it ahead of time of a previously advertised, or would that just need to have the standard advance notice and it would still pass capital?
If it would just have the standard advance notice. So the next meeting is the next regularly scheduled meeting. So that's going to be also set at the next town council meeting too, per FOIA. So you'll see on the council agenda all of the meeting dates being set. Any additional meetings, you just need at least 24 hours advance notice. The 12th or the 29th was just kind of giving you guys advance notice of a poll being sent out, and then
Understood.
all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Okay, just want to make sure.
No worries.
Hey, this is Chris Crowley, real quick. I appreciate the work that's going on here. You guys are doing a great job, and I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody in Allendale for the good work you're doing. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. James Gardner.
I'll second it. Jay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Have a great evening, folks.
Y'all have a
And
good
thank
night.
you, Mayor.
Thanks.
Yep.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Good night, everyone.